about Matt Burton. He came from Penrith to the Bulldogs. It's frightening with him and Jacob Kiraz. There's nobody else like Matty Burton.
Passed on the inside to Marnie! Doggies one tackle, that's all they needed. Got the first try, 4-0 they lead.
Kick-Ow, he scores the try. It was a kick for Kick-Ow. Kick for the box, and Burton coming as well. Matt Burton wins the race, and the try they'll get, and they'll take the lead with it.
What's the price? Have you been booked? He said, no. I said, you go to the police station? He said, no. I said, have you been charged? He said, no. I said, was it positive? He said, no. And I said, well, did you drive the car away? He said, yeah. I said, well, what are you worrying about? Nothing. I just wanted to let you know. That's how it was.
Haywood over the top to Kiraz. Kiraz. Back Kiraz, drink Shiraz.
I mean, our game is so stupid. What sort of stupid game is this?
Yes, lots of things happening for the Doggies in what was generally regarded as a very good year, a much improved year for them. 14 wins, 10 losses. They finished 6th on the ladder. Unfortunately, they finished the season with a round 26 loss to Manly, a round 27 loss to the Cowboys, a heavy one, and then a semi-final loss to Manly back at Accor Stadium. Michael, how did you assess the season of the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs?
I love that segment just then. It got me fired up. It was good.
The
grabs,
the great package.
The package is the word I'm looking for. Well done, Mindy. Yes,
well done.
Package. Well done,
great
Mindy.
package.
But yes, a really good season for the Bulldogs. Really, really good season in terms of their improvement, in terms of their trajectory. They started with Drew Hutchinson in the halves, and he didn't really fire. Then they turned to Toby Sexton, and you looked at times, you go, oh, maybe Toby Sexton could be an NRL caliber half, and then you look at the not the emergence of Stephen Crichton, but the consistency, the influence of Stephen Crichton at the age of 23, what sort of impact he's having, not only on that side, but on that club. You look at the improvement of the likes of Max King in the forward pack. I think the elements are there that, they should be really pleased of what they achieved in 2024. Not satisfied with the way it ended.
Yep.
But pleased with the lengths that the improvements that they made, and probably how quick they made them. Because this time last year, we were thinking, they're definitely not a top 8 side heading into 2024. But I thought there was some real improvements in that squad that's nowhere near the finished product. And, there's a few holes in that team still, but I liked what they did this year.
At the completion of round 25, which was a 34 points to 18 win against the Warriors, they were in 5th spot. They were pushing for a top 4 spot.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Which is completely against what most people thought going into it. And you're right. I was reminded again by someone on the Bulldog staff the other day talking about how Matt Burton and Reid Marnie had been the captains the year before, and Stephen Crichton walked into training and he wasn't even training with them yet. Remember, he came back early from that commitments with Samoa, and they, and when I say they, Burton and Marnie said, there's our captain.
He's so impressive.
Incredible.
He has a presence about him, an aura when he walks into a room, a confidence. He's articulate. He's his footy ability is ridiculous as well.
Yeah,
but just the way he can influence the club, he'll go down as one of their most influential signings over the past 50 years.
I think he missed the game against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. I took Austin and a friend of his, Reese, to the game. Reese is a mad Bulldog supporter, and at halftime, Stephen Crichton was walking out of the coach's box, which was right near there, and all the way home, all he could talk about, I dabbed up Stephen Martin at halftime. Yeah. He dabbed me up, and I'm like, that's well done, Stephen Crichton.
Yeah.
Here's the incredible thing about it. In 2023, they finished 15th on the ladder, 769 points against. That was the worst in the league. The defence was worst in the league.
And that was supposed to be their thing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, so that's what made it worse.
And that was the other thing. Cameron Ciraldo's first year as an NRL coach, and everyone's going, this guy that everyone held out for and the Dogs offered a 5-year deal to, and he's the worst defensive team, worst defensive coach.
He's a defensive coach.
And he was so instrumental in what Penrith were doing defensively. And then within the space of 12 months, 2024, third in the league in defence. and they finished with 433 points against. The issue is the 4, right? The issue is the scoring of points, which brings us to, try scorer. Jacob Kiraz led the way with 12 tries in 25 games. He was 31st on the NRL list. Try assists came from Toby Sexton, who had 12 try assists in 16 games, and Matt Burton, who had 13 try assists in 23 games. Like they need someone to create more. Maybe it is Sexton. It still feels like they're an elite level fullback and an elite and or half.
Yeah, one of those
spots.
positions. Yeah, they're an elite middle and they're an elite half or fullback away from being a top 4 side.
And just going back to that defensive point that I made, and it was also related to the Jackson Tapine situation, right? Because if you listen to all the messaging that was coming out of the Bulldogs last year, and in that time had a frame of reference around what was happening with Jackson Tapine, always it was Serraldo talking about we wanted players who wanted to be here. We wanted players who were prepared to work. We wanted players who were committed to each other. All of those things that you thought maybe that all the time he was talking about that.
I don't think it was just that, because there's a few other blokes they let walk out of the club as well, right? I know what you're talking. That was a highly publicised and a focal point, but there was a few others. Rafa Talamara was one
who had, on behalf of the playing group, complained, brought to the attention of the coaching staff, hey, training's too hard.
Yeah. So there was a couple of elements to what Cameron Serraldo was saying, and it's testament to Serraldo because, as you said, first year coach last year and had a terrible season, and he would have been questioned himself, but he stayed to his structures and his patterns, and he didn't deviate too much from what he did the year before. They just brought in better players, and you look at their recruitment. Everyone was critical of their recruitment, but it just built the squad up, right? Which built training standards up, and all these sort of things which flowed on to on the field. And the players were a second year wiser into the system and knew what to expect. But I think he had a great season. I think the Bulldogs should be really, really impressed of what they saw in 2024.
Weren't far away from that semi-final win either, 24-22.
But you look at the two sides, and we're talking a top half or top fullback. Who turned the game for the Manly Seagulls in that last moment?
DCE, Tommy Turbo.
Correct. They play on the other side.
That's why you pay them $1 million plus.
And Canterbury are willing to do that. They just haven't been able to get one across the line at that top end. So but if I'm Canterbury looking forward, obviously concerns around those same things in terms of scoring points, but the foundation is there that they're set up for a premiership tilt in the next couple of years. I don't think 25, but they missed out on Pappenhausen. Pappenhausen might have been the key. They're in for Leo Thompson. If you added Pappenhausen and Thompson, then you start going, okay, well, this becomes a top 4 quality roster.
Yeah. Grading?
A.
Yeah, hard to disagree with that.
I give him
Finish
an A.
6 with an A.
Yeah.
Crichton definitely has a je ne sais quoi, a certain je ne sais quoi. He does. He has that, as the French would say. How's the 5'8" Carl with his neck surgery? Carl Olawapu is so he's all keen to play again, isn't he?
Yep.
A prodigious talent.
It's the same as Ryan Sutton. Similar situations.
Okay.
Whose knee has troubled him, but I think both those players believe they can play. The Bulldogs may have other thoughts.
I think they've encouraged them to get second and third and fourth opinions.
Yeah, because they're burning big holes in their cap too. Ryan Sutton's on really good money.
Yeah.
Really good money for the next 12 months. And Olawapu didn't come cheap either. So they've basically been down 2 of those roster spots, which are key.
And do you want that responsibility of a young man putting himself in danger? Like, people put themselves in danger when they go out and play rugby league at any time, but that's the other thing.
It's a little bit like Corey Harawira-Naito at Canberra as well, who's keen to play. And Canberra, like, you're not playing for us.
Yeah.
So there are these elements in and around where you go, well, it's a tough call because these players don't want to medically retire. They still think they can play. But as you said, the clubs don't want some of that risk.
Can't wait for the anti-Bulldogs segment. Merry Christmas, gents. Lionel, you would have been surprised. There you go.
How can you be anti what they achieved this year?
No, you couldn't be.
They lacked the class, and the class showed in the business end of the season. That's what happened.
Of course.
That's all that's if you wanted to summarise Canterbury in a sentence, that's what it was.
Effort, A+.
And how good were going to a Canterbury? How fun. I'm not sure how many Canterbury games you did, Jimmy, but going to a Canterbury game in the back end of the year was fun.
Yeah, the fans,
not getting out of the car park or in the Olympic Park, but with their horns, just relax on the horns. But it was fun, and the scenes at Belmore with the people celebrating in the streets and getting behind the community, getting behind the club. They can sense that something's brewing here. Unless
you were a drummer for Canberra. So the one thing I will say too about Cameron Ciraldo, and we talked about his, if this was NFL, you'd say he came from the defensive side, right? But he changed the way teams attacked, and he changed the makeup of teams this year. I think he led the way with the smaller forward.
Yeah, okay.
He led the way with Kurt Mann playing in the middle and having footwork as opposed to 4 big men, two on the field and 2 off the bench.
It's sort of evolved like that the last couple of years.
I reckon he led the way, and maybe he was forced to, given like a Curtis Moran
around him. Yeah.
Curtis Moran, you go, mate, he'd be 92 kilos.
Yeah, they love him though.
But got the job done. All my Doggies members merch turned up yesterday. I'm pumped for 2025, 90th anniversary, and we enter the NRLW. The NRL team will be even stronger and will go deeper into the finals. BMO, there's no guarantees on that.
But it's just good to see the fact that a big club, a club with groundswell of support and can have something to cheer about. And that's what you want from the Tigers. That's what you want from the Dragons. That's what
the
Parramatta
Eels.
have had it.
The Eels.
They have had that over the last couple of years. Well, not the last, but before that, they had a good run of finals, playing in the grand final.
Yep.
But those clubs that haven't had a lot of success over the past decade or so, there is some hope.
Yeah. Every Doggies review I've heard this year, yes, they've vastly improved, but no mention of the fact they beat one finishing top 8 team in the last 3 months of the season, and it was a very lucky 1-point win. Sometimes ladder positions are flawed based on the draw, but surely you would have to start beating these top teams before we take them seriously.
Before they can get to the next level.
Yep.
And that comes down to the class factor. It's not through effort or grit, and that's why they'll beat teams in and around them on the ladder, through grit and determination, where the teams above them have someone that can turn a game.
That's right.
They've got Stephen Crichton. Kick out.
And Stephen Crichton's a centre.
Yes.
He's
not on the ball
exactly.
as much, right?
He's not a fullback. He's not a halfback. Even Reid Marnie's going to be an interesting one. It's like, I'd like to see Reid play 60 minutes. 80-minute hookers these days.
Yeah, they're rare.
They're rare. And I don't know that you get the impact out of them. Anyway, give us your thoughts. Don't forget what Jason Taylor did for the attack, says Anthony. Exactly right. I think there was at one point Cascool described him as the buy of the year for them.
Yeah.
Just because the way that the Bulldogs changed the way they did things. Michael, doctors say a proper breakfast includes eggs, bacon, and breakfast with Vossy and Brandy. So get your daily fix through our socials and listen live on SEN Radio.